Joining us now on the Megacast is Lisa Rose, a children's author, and her new book out now is The Singer and the Scientist, already named a National Jewish Book Award finalist. Lisa, thanks for being with us again.
Thank you for having me again.
Appreciate having you on. We've had you on, of course, before for a few of your other books coming out. Now you got a new one. Very exciting. The Singer and the Scientist. Tell us a little bit about this story and what prompted you to write this particular story.
The Singer and the Scientist is about how Albert Einstein and Marian Anderson met. Marian Anderson was a famous singer. She was singing in Princeton, New Jersey, and she was very tired at the end of the night. And she wanted to stay at a hotel. Unfortunately, at that time, African American women were not welcome at the hotel. And it was a very embarrassing situation for her. Albert Einstein loved music. He almost became a musician instead of a scientist and mathematician. And he was there and he walked right up to her and said, "Come stay in my extra room for the night." And they formed this friendship that lasted until his death. And I really love that story, and I really wanted to bring it to light because it was the story of how African American people and Jews are friends and united in their common struggles.
And you think about the times that we're in, certainly some of the really unfortunate things that have been out in the news of late that do involve that connection between the Black community and the Jewish community all across the world. And then you tell this story of those two communities really coming together in this beautiful way. Now, the interesting thing is, this is a story that is written by you, typically a children's author. So why is this an important story that you believed to tell kids in particular in this particular way?
Well, I think that you can't hide difficult subjects from kids, and you have to find a way to tell it in an appropriate way. And this was a story that can demonstrate that we have much more in common, much more that can unite us, that could break us apart. And especially too, as you've mentioned, in recent years, I think the two communities have been more at odds. And I would like us to remember our roots in the civil rights movement and how we banded together for equality for all.
You can find more information on the book by visiting Lisa's website at lisarosewrites.com. lisarosewrites.com. You can also find The Singer and the Scientist online to order your copies on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and also from bookshop.org. Those links directly to these books on those websites can also be found on Lisa's website at lisarosewrites.com. And especially at this time where you're telling this story and the kids are picking this up. So how did you then approach that in terms of writing this particularly for kids and telling the story that has not only a lot of really interesting human interest elements, but also is tackling those tough subjects that often can be a little bit tough for kids to understand if they haven't had that life experience yet, where they've seen racism and they've learned about segregation and they've seen prejudice in action. How do you tell a story like this for kids that allows them to pick up that information and understand that that's part of the world that we live in, unfortunately? And this is a way these two individuals were able to break down those barriers and have a really beautiful relationship for a long time.
Well, I am a teacher, so I kind of rely on that. Now, this is a picture book, but this is a picture book that you wouldn't read to a kindergartner. You would read this picture book is meant, and I believe picture books are 0 to 100. And this is a picture book that is mostly for upper elementary kids once they've had some of the background of that. And I think it's so important, through books, we can learn about others and we can learn about ourselves. And we say that, books can provide mirrors, windows, and doors. And, it's important to have that representation, especially if you are unfamiliar with the subject. This is a way for a parent or a teacher. This is really a book that is meant to be kind of guided with a child. and use that way.
Again, more information, LisaRoseWrites.com. As you mentioned, she's a teacher and provides a teacher's guide for this as well on her website. You can download that. It's only 3 pages, plenty of information and ways that you can approach reading this book to your students and teaching your students about this subject matter can be found LisaRoseWrites.com. Just scroll down about midway down the page and you will find her teacher's guide for The Singer and the Scientist, which you can also purchase by clicking on links on her website to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookshop.org. Purchase The Singer and the Scientist. And in terms of giving those teachers guides, for you, that's something that's not entirely common with authors to provide a guide for teaching and learning these lessons that are put into these stories, especially for children's authors. So you, having mentioned that you have been an educator and now are a writer as well, why was that important for you to provide that material to teachers so that they can use this as educational material in their classroom and have fruitful conversations with their kids and with their students to really turn this into more than just a story that they're reading during reading time?
Well, I'm going to correct you. There is actually lots of books that do have teacher's guides on authors' websites. So always when you have a book, check an author's website. They're often free. And I think it's important because teachers are busy. They are busy, they are overwhelmed, they are stressed out. And here is something that can be easily used and applied in your classroom. It aligns all with core curriculum guidelines. So I did it because that way, because it is a book that requires more explanation. And I believe that picture books should not be read one. It's not a one and done. It can be used multiple times for multiple themes in classrooms, and a way to even guide parents, because it is a difficult subject matter. You know, it deals with racism and anti-Semitism, and those are topics that need to be discussed. And it's important to discuss them. And sometimes as adults, we have the words, but we don't know how to explain it to children. So this gives parents a guide as well, how to say it in an age appropriate way. Because parents are busy and stressed out and overwhelmed too.
Yeah, and especially now when we're seeing some of the impacts of the pandemic on parents with increased parental anxiety and stresses and parental burnout. And certainly the issues we're seeing in our classrooms with teachers continuing to be burnt out in that way and trying to bridge those connections with their students and get them back engaged. This is a great way to do it, to go through a book that's tailored to children and to classrooms in this sort of way, and telling a really important story at a really important time that has so many connections to our society today and the tough conversation that we as adults are having, and certainly adults are having in the classroom with some of the older kids. And starting those conversations early helps to really provide context to these kids, and they're able to recognize that around their community, and that makes for hopefully a better connection in those school communities and therefore in the outside world. We're joined by Lisa Rose, a children's author, with us on today's edition of the Megacast. Her new book is The Singer and the Scientist, already been named a National Jewish Book Award finalist. You can learn more information as well as info on how to purchase the book and find her free teacher's guide at LisaRoseWrites.com. And in the past, Lisa, you've made plenty of appearances out in the community with your books over the pandemic. You did so virtually as well. Is that continuing on this time? Do you have any appearances coming up that people might want to participate in?
Yes, I am participating in the Detroit Jewish Book Fair on Sunday, November 13th. So it's 11 a.m. There's a signing. There'll be plenty of other authors who are local here and there's authors coming in for the book fair that are not. So I suggest you check it out, because yes, we are finally doing in-person events. So it is very exciting to be back in front of children doing events, and I think this is something that we should take advantage of and celebrate the fact that we can all be together.
Again, more information can be found as well as how to inquire with Lisa about having her appear in your classroom or your book events can be found at lisarosewrites.com. Lisa, a few more minutes with you before we'll say goodbye. Anything else you'd like to tell us about the singer and the scientist or other upcoming projects we should be keeping an eye out for in the near future?
Okay, well, with the singer and the scientist, as you said, I would love to come and visit your classrooms. I have my other books as well, A Zombie Vacation, A Shmulek Paints the Town, and I have a chapter book series about a girl who is in second grade. Her name is Star Powers, and she loves science, loves space, wants to be an astronaut, and she also uses a wheelchair. And through those books, I talk about the value of inclusion in the story. And I really talk about, I call the next level of inclusion in the fact that the story is not about the disability. It is about a girl who loves science and she just happens to be using a wheelchair. And I think that's something that we need to, there's many stories about diversity, and that is the subject matter where I really want us to just talk about the person and not what makes them different because of their challenges.
All this information, as well as upcoming books and stories and appearances from Lisa, can be found on her website, lisarosewrites.com. Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.